try to create our first entities in game, so our first objects, and we'll do something quite specific. We'll use a simplified ECS model. So what is an ECS model? Let's use Paint. An ECS model is a model with three things. You have entities, you have, so E, you have components, and you have systems. So entities are things in the game. Components are, let's say, data about specific features. So here, for instance, the component we will create will be a sprite component. So it will be a component that I can draw. We will just later, but I suppose in the next video, create a rigid body component or a physics component that will be used in order to, how to say it, to create collisions and speeds and velocities and physics stuff. So those are data about the different entities in the game. And systems are logic to run the components and to change the data. Like the rendering system will display things, the physics system will make things collide, transmit forces, etc. So why is it so specific? Because actually we will store all components in vectors. I will have, for instance, a vector for sprite components. I will have vectors for rigid body components, etc. And the fact that they are stored in vector will make the game very efficient. For instance, I will draw all things, and I will manage all collisions, and I will, I don't know what we could have as other components. So each system will be managed separately. And this will allow the computer, for a lot of technical reasons, to go very fast and to be able to do a lot of computing and represent a lot of things in the game. The problem with this entity component system is when we want to link components together. For instance, so I will just finish this. For instance, we could have one entity that has only a sprite component. Maybe we could have another entity with a sprite and a rigid body. Maybe we could have a third entity that has a sprite, a rigid body, and maybe another thing, so another component, etc. The problem with this is because we need to keep the component array tightly, tight, and same for other components. It's not easy to go back from the component to the entity to find about another component. So we will have to find a way to coordinate the components when we want some data to be exchanged between components. But we'll see that later. I will actually try to implement this in a very simple way. And we'll see later if we need more complication or not. Okay, so I won't implement a general system. I will just try to implement something that works well enough for my game. So let's start. For now, I'll implement everything in my scene game, because this is where I want to have my entities. So we will need a vector of entities. So I need to include vector. I will also include array. And yes, that's fine. So I need to define what is an entity. So let's do it. And my entity, I think, will only have an array, actually an integer, which will be the identifier. And so I need to define and maybe just an array of numbers. And I will have a certain, so this array of number will be, I will define it here. Max components. And for now, I will only have 2 components. What's the problem here? I don't really understand what is the problem now. Yeah, I actually want to instantiate it. Oh, do they want, oh, because, okay, now I understand. They want it to be instantiated, so to have something in it. Could this work this way? I don't really understand what is the problem. Oh, maybe it's just... Oh, okay. Okay, my problem was just because I didn't import the array. Okay. So I don't think I need this. Yeah, and I will actually want this. Allow me to think. Yeah, it should be okay. Okay, so the idea is the following. I will have a certain number of components. So let's say 3. So I will have a certain number of components. I will have my, let's call it transform, even if it is 2D here. I will have, maybe I can call it transform 2D. Oh, it has no sense. Transform is a transform. I will have the sprite component. And I will have the rigid body component. Okay. What I want to store in my entity is, and for each one of those components, I will have an array, actually a vector. In my entities, what I want to store is just the ID of what component I have. For instance, here, if I have entity 1, and the value inside, so 1 is the ID, and the value inside the array will be, I don't know, 0, 0, 0. It would mean that this entity has this as the first component, this one as a second component, this one as a third component. Let's say if we have another entity, like entity 2, 1, minus 1, 1. This will mean that this entity will have this component, no component on the second part, and this component, etc., etc. And if I have entity 3, for instance, and I could have an entity 3 with 2, 1, 2, it will mean that the first component will be here, this one will be here, and this one will be here. Okay? So, it's very simple as a system. I'm not sure it's time-proof, but maybe for our game it will be enough. We'll see that. So here, this is why I want to store a max components, number of elements, and I32 so that I can have negative numbers. So here, I don't actually need to, I can give this as a value, but this is not very important. Okay. And maybe in each component I will store the ID of the entity. Yeah, it could help. So, this system is only valid if I know the order of the components, okay? So this is what I will have here. So I want a vector of entities. And I will create all my components. So I suppose I need I component interface. What really do I need this? Maybe I could just create the components directly. Okay, so I will create, I will just create a header file with components. And in it, I will have my struct transform. And for now, it will just have vector2. Maybe call it transform 2D. I think there is a vector2 class. Pose for the position. And I'm not sure how the rotation is stored. I suppose it is a float. And I could have a scale. Okay, fine. I will have another component called sprite. Yeah, and this sprite will contain what sprite can contain. It might contain a source rect, so we have rectangle. It might contain a source rect and a dsdirect. And it can be drawn. I'm not sure I need more. Maybe I have more data, but for now I would stay with that. And so this direct will actually copy this and this, but let's go this way for now. And we will have a struct rigid body 2D. This struct will have a bounding box. Again, it will get some data from this and this. Okay. I think that's all. So, in my scene, I'm totally improvising, okay? I'm just telling myself, okay, maybe for a simple gaze, this kind of structure would work. Maybe it won't. And bodies. Okay. The question I'm asking to myself is how an entity can get to this. We'll see later. Maybe I can implement my system directly in this in the scene. Okay. So let's create some function to create components and add a component. So any component should have a any entity should have a transform. Okay, so create entity. And maybe those should be pointers. If I want to store node pointers, I'm not sure about that. So how to create an entity with the system? If I want to create an entity, I also want it to have a list of the elements. So I need to create the component before it. So, and in my entity again, I know I have an array. So if I want to create an entity, I have to pass a const reference to an array. An array of I32, sorry, max components. Okay, and it will store my entity here. And maybe it shall return the name of the entity. Or maybe not. I'm not sure it should. Okay. As I told you, in my components, maybe I should store also the ID of the entity. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Because I need a link in order to get to the other components. So let's try something. Okay, so now when I want to create an entity, what I will do is get the length. Yeah, so get an ID, so new ID is equal to the length of this, the size of this plus 1. Not plus 1 actually, the size of this. And so I need to pass the array of components in order to put it in the entity. And then actually, but this should be a const reference actually. Create entity. Okay. So what we will do is we will create the entity and put it in the vector of entities. So entities dot emplace back, and our entity, if I remember well, has an ID and components. So I just have to pass here the new ID and the components. Actually, I think emplace back doesn't need the curly braces. Or does it? Do I need a constructor? Okay, so now it works. Actually, emPlaceBack needs a constructor to be implemented in order to be able to construct in place the entity I want to construct. Okay, so this will create an entity. And now I want to create components for this entity. How should I do that, actually? When I want to create components, I want to pass the entity ID and then to create a component of this style. And those are valued by default. So when I want to create a component, I just want to give the entity ID here and to put the component in the new part. Okay, so maybe what I should do is just create create a transform 2D component. So for now, I could template them, but for now, let's try this way. So here I just need to pass an entity. And that's all, I think. And I would do the same for, okay, it could return the component, or it could put it directly in the list. Let's try it like this. So create component sprite. Maybe later I will use factories or something like this, but for now let's go simple and create component rigid body. So let's try for the transform. So here what I want to do is, so actually I'm not sure I would need this. Because I have to choose, actually. I have to choose if I want the entity to be given or if I want the components to be given. And actually, because the entities are already given, I think I just create an entity like this and emPlaceBack, and I will just create a constructor in entity without the array. Okay, and so I would use, sorry, here for create entity, I don't need this anymore. I have closed everything. Okay, so create component transform 2D. Create entity should create a new ID and emPlaceBack just the new ID. And by default, we'll have this as a list of components. So -1 meaning that there is no component for this kind of component. Then, when I want to create a component for this entity, what I will do is so transform 2D. What I will do is emPlaceBack transform 2D. So transforms the transform 2D, and this transform 2D just can be any transform 2D. I'm using the default constructor. And this is, okay. I need to get the ID of the components. So I will actually do the same as here. So new component ID will get me transforms the last element. And now in my entities, this is a const vect, so I actually want to modify it. In my entities, I want to get entity ID dot components, and here I want to modify the first one, because for transform this is the first component, and this will be equal to the new component ID. What's the problem here? Oh yeah, actually this is an int. Okay. And what's the problem here? Okay, oh, because size is actually okay. So I suppose I need to static cast this, because I want to have my -1 element. So okay. So I think that should be okay. It will put in my entity first element the number, the index actually, of this the transform component from my list of components, which is from this list of components. So I must do the same for other thing, and maybe I should create an enum giving the that will give me the index of each component. So I will enum class component indices, and we will have transform 2D equals 0. No, this should not be written this way. 2D equals 0, sprite equal 1, and rigid body 2D equal 2. Why did I call it with a big D? So I have to respect this. Okay. Fine. So what's the problem here? Okay. I think it's just a matter of dictionary. So here, instead of 0, I should use, it won't be very, I will get it. So component order, rank, rather, equal static cast to i32 of transform of actually it will be component indices. So let's call it component index transform 2D. Okay, and here I use this. So actually this function should be the same nearly for any components. I just need here to get a different constructor. So I could either do this with templates, or I could create a factory of components. So maybe this is what I will do. I will create a factory of components and then use this as an identifier in order to get the right component index. Okay, so I will create my component factory here. Yeah, this is a class. Oh, the point is this has no type. This has a type, but this has no subtype. What should I do? Can I create something like struct? I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I can derive a struct from another struct. Oh, it seems to work actually. Let's try this. The point is that I'm not sure I want to derive anything. No, this would become complex. I don't want something complex. So can I actually create a component factory? I'm not sure I can. Okay, too bad. Too bad. So I should use a template system. So if I want to use a template system, I should actually create. So let's try to implement a templated function for components. Void create component. And here I will pass, so I will use a template. Struct C for components. Or do they prefer? Okay, so it's fine. And create component, I want this to be passed. And now what I want to do is, and also I will want another, I will want a component in this. Okay, so what I would do is create this. Okay, transform here this. What's the problem with C? Do I need it? Yeah, it needs to be a class actually. Okay, so it will in place this, and then component index, I don't need it anymore because I have it here passed as a parameter. But this is a component, actually I need it, but I just need to cast it. So I will call it I component index. And that's fine. So I could create this templated function in order to create my components. And I don't have to use this. So let's try this. And I don't need this anymore then. Okay, so that's not bad. I could actually try it. The point is I have no system for now. Maybe I will try this and just check. So I will create a new function in entity just to check what is inside an entity. So let's call it what's the problem here? Okay, I must mark this explicit. I will call it toString. So just to test it. Or even log. Log level debug. Actually, I just need log here. Should be fine. And can I just pass this to string? No, it won't work. Okay, so I will pass component at 0. One and 2. Okay, it's just to check what it should do. What's the problem here? Member reference. No, should be fine. What's the problem here? Okay, because I have another function called log. Log entity. Okay, this is fine. Okay, so just to test it, let's try. I will, in my game, I will create a new entity. So create entity, it will be the player. And I will create component of transform on it. Actually, create entity should maybe give me some index if I need it. Oh, we'll see later. So here I need, so the index will actually be 0. And I need to pass the entity index, the component index. Maybe I could simplify this. Okay, and I do the same for a sprite. And a rigid body. And what's the problem here? Oh, sprite and rigid body here. Maybe it's, oh, because they need a constructor maybe? maybe I should define an empty constructor for each one. Let's do that. I'm not sure. This should be called bounding box. Okay, so we need the constructor to initialize something actually. So yeah, what I should do, I think, is create an explicit constructor. With the entity ID. Okay, and I have to explicitly create this. Okay, this is a vector of float, is it? Yeah, this is a vector of float actually. So let's use float. Okay, and I do the same for the other components. Okay. Okay, so maybe here, I have imported components. So I have my vector of this. I have create components. Oh, and this should not be transform 2D here. Should not be. It just should be this. Aucun constructeur par défaut for transform 2D. Oh, but I don't want to add it here, actually. Okay, this is my problem. Okay, I think I won't be able to create this templated constructor then. Actually, I could pass any list, because this is just a list of, what is it? No, this is actually a vector of things. So I cannot pass something here. Okay, I have to create my functions normally. So by this create transform 2D component, component index. I think I will keep it. And place back transform 2D with the entity number. And this should be good. Okay. Okay, create transform 2D components. I'm not sure I have to pass this actually. I will just put it here. Okay, a lot of back and forth in this video, but it was interesting. Maybe I will find a way to refactor this in a templated manner, but let's try this for now. Okay, so I have to do the same for the other kind of components, so sprite and rigid body. Which will be quite easy to fix. So here I will use sprite. Actually, oh yeah, it has to be in scene game. So here I would use sprites. I will use sprite here. In sprites. Here it is sprite. And this is good. This could be converted to a function actually. Yeah, I think it should be. But I need to pass this entity ID. Okay, I will do this. And so now I do the same here. This is a rigid body, so here I want a rigid. What's the name of bodies? Yeah. This is a rigid body. Okay. So I will create a function for this part. It would be a private function. Actually, everything is private. Void and place component. And this will be not. This will be actually the component type. So component indices. Maybe in place component is not the right word. What I mean is I want to update entity with component. And I actually need the new component ID. Update entity with component. Okay, so update entity with component, and I will pass this. I will put this here. So this will be the component index. I need so it's a new component ID, and so I will do this. So this is an int again. What's the problem here? My list of components is, oh, it is actually okay. It's actually I32 here. So it should be I32 here too. Okay. Okay, so this won't work. I need to create, oh, and last thing, I want to use this function now. With the entity ID, the new component ID, and the type of the component, which is a rigid body. Okay. Here it is a sprite. And here it is a transform 2D. Okay, so now I can do this. I call it sprite 2D. Strange. This is a wrong copy and paste. Call it create sprite component. Okay. And create sheet body component. Okay, maybe what I want to do is update my create entity so it gives me back the identifier of this, which is a U32. So this will give back a U32, so I can get the entity number. And in create entity, I will just return a new ID. What's the problem? Oh, it's to be a U32 here. Okay, so player. Okay, let's create another one. Let's call it I don't know, maybe I could have a crate. And my crate, not a crate, maybe a background. If I want to. But my background won't have any rigid body. And so now I want to display both the player and the background to check the indices of the components are the right one. So I should have 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, minus 1. Okay, it doesn't work at all. Something is not working. It's always difficult to know if it is a header problem or something else. Okay, it was a header problem. So we have 0, 0, 0 and 1, 1, minus 1. So that's good. It means our components are put at the right place. Okay, so now I should define a system. Do I do it now? Yes, let's do it now. Okay. How to set it up? So system should just update itself or draw itself if it has to draw. And yeah, so I will create an image. So I want a small image to represent the player, maybe something like 64. Yeah, and this would be black. Maybe it's too big. I think it's too big. Let's do it like 32, 64. Okay. I will save it. So I would save it in my game. Let's call it player. Okay, now I want my asset manager to load it. Call it player. And get texture player. Okay, for now there is a texture here. Okay. And I want to create a player like this with a sprite. Okay. So I will create this. And I want, but this time when I create my sprite, maybe I will pass more data. I think I want to pass, I want to pass the texture, for instance. Or at least I should pass the texture name in order to draw something. So I would need a texture name in my component. Sorry. So here I would actually need a texture name. And maybe my texture name should be never more than that. Can I do something like this? Or I would use array. std array of car Okay. So I need the texture name, and also I need the data I want to pass here. So the position for now is not important, but what is important is the size. So I also need the size of the sprite. So I will pass a float. This is a float. Yeah, this is a float. So I will pass a float width and a float. Let's write it. Okay. So now in my constructor, I should tell that the source rectangle will be equal to 0, 0 width height. And the DST rectangle should be equal to the same. And I also need to pass the texture name. So this will be this. Actually, this could be directly here. So I don't need this anymore. Or maybe there is a constructor, never know. And the texture name will be equal to the text name P. And this should be const. Okay. So here, when I create my sprite, I want to pass the texture name. So it will be, actually I should do it here. Well, as we told, it would be an array of 16 character. Text name. Oh, it should be a reference. Okay. So yeah, I want the same. So yeah, I should get a reference to the texture just to get its character. Text equal asset get texture, and I want to pass the texture name. Oh, they don't want this. data. I think it should be fine. Yes. Oh, I need a const here. And yeah, I just want to get the width, the height, and I think I need also the texture names. Oh, because narrowing conversion to floats. Yeah, because in my texture it is a float, so I need to cast this. Okay. Okay, fine. So this should create the sprite with the right characteristics. And so now I can draw it. So I want a system to draw it. For now, I will just create a function. Okay, my system will just be a function. So I will here create void system sprite draw. And this will just draw everything that is inside my thing. And also, okay, this system sprite draw. Let's try this first. So I need to implement it. And what you will do is just going through all sprites and draw them. For auto a sprite in sprites. And to draw it, we'll use a renderer on there. But I need to create this function actually. Do I? Oh, maybe I could use the one I already have. I have draw texture. Oh, I could use another one. Where is it? It is in renderer, and I will create a new function called sprite. It will surely draw a texture, get a tint, but it will take a source rect and just direct. Do I need to include here? No, I just need to pre-declare it. Source rect and destination rect. So if I have to implement it. And I will use draw texture rec or draw texture ex or draw texture pro. Okay, I will use draw texture pro that take the texture, source rect, destination rect. For the origin, for now, I will give. Is there a 0 here? No. Is it not working? Maybe I could pass something like this. And then, what do I have? Vector 2, rotation 0 for now. And color, which is a tint. Okay. I will add the rotation and the origin later. So now I can draw sprite. Sprite dot. So I need the texture actually. So I need to get it. Const texture a equal asset manager get texture name. Maybe I should. What's the problem here? Yeah, again, I need to pass this. I'm not sure it would work actually. So yeah, I need the texture I want to draw and the sprite, source rect, sprite, ds direct, and I think I need a tint white. Okay, so this should draw all sprites. And now I just have to call this in draw instead of, I want to draw this. This is my background, and then I will draw this. Let's try. Okay, so create sprite component. Send game, create sprite component, 3 arguments. Yeah, 3 arguments. Why is it used? Okay, here I should change it. Oh, it's not 3 arguments, it is actually 2. Okay, I should change send name. So it's called player. Yeah, I was sure it won't work like this. I will have to do something for my texture names. So I can load this. But to get this, so I need to get the right. Yeah, it won't work like this because it is a 7. What should I use for this? Okay, so for now I will use a string. I don't like this because my problem is I actually want every component here. What is it? Every sprite to be the same size. I actually want this to be the same size in memory. This is why I chose a certain size here. But yeah, for now, let's simplify it and use a string here. So I would just want to pass a string, and so should be fine here. I just want to pass a string here too, and create sprite component. So I don't need data. Okay, this is working. This is not working. But again, I'm not sure about my CMake part, so I will delete. Actually, maybe clean would be fine. Let's try. Okay, maybe I have something here. The point is, it's in the middle. So I actually need, when I want to draw, I actually need to get the data from my transform to know where is my player. And here I also need to entities, actually, transforms at entities at 0 dot components at 0. Okay, this will give me the index to the transform I want to modify. Actually, I cannot modify this with at. I think at is returning. Yeah, it is returning. Oh, it's actually returning a. I'm not sure what I can do. Ignoring return value function. Okay. Can I change this? And here I want, so actually this is a transform. Actually, I'm missing a parenthesis here. Okay, dot, I want the position, dot x equal like this, and same. So it's just to modify the position of my player. And here I want this to be, I don't know, actually the same is good. Okay, so I transform, I change this. I'm not sure at give me something I can modify. Let's try. Then, when I create my sprite here, I pass a rect. Actually, I want to modify this rect. I want sprite dot dstRect equals to the position, the transform of my sprite x, y, and the size of my sprite. So here I need to get the transform of my sprite. So it's not a const actually, it's a transform to the e equals transform, and here I need the transform dot at sprite dot entity ID. Is this fine? No. Entities at. Okay, so here again, what I do is I'm taking this is the entity number. I get the entity, and now in the entities I want a component. I want the index of this component, and this is 0. Okay, and here I want transform dot pose dot x. Actually, I don't need to modify this. Transform dot pose dot y. Maybe I should create functions to do this, because this is not really easy to read. And the size of my texture. Width text dot height. And this is, I suppose, float. Point is, I have to, yeah, that's why I have to actually convert it. Okay. Yep, now it's here. So now you understand why in my entities I have created this list of components. It is a way to get the data I want. Actually, I could do a copy here. I'm not sure what's better. Maybe it's better to get a copy. And allow me to recompute the size of the sprite and then draw it again. And if I want, for instance, I could do something like the position when I update here. Maybe I can update the position. And now I have my sprite that is moving. Okay. So yeah, the goal of this is to manage all sprites at the same place, and I will create other systems. I think it's not bad. It may need a little refactoring in order to get this kind of data, like because this is, yeah, I know this is the first entity. This is actually player ID. And then I want a certain component. So what I should do, I think, is create a function to get a component. Actually, I should maybe a function for this. Get transform component of a certain entity, for instance. And here what I'm using, here I am getting the transform of a certain entity again. Yeah, so I will create this function. For get component. And it will take a component type, component index, and it will take an entity. And what should it return, actually? So maybe I should call it gate component index. Because when I say I want to get component, or maybe I can do a switch inside it. So get component, and yeah, I want get component, and yeah, I want the entity ID. So it is U32 entity ID. So this should return something like this. Actually, it will switch. Oh yeah, but the point is I should return a component. And I cannot, again, I will have this matter of my components have a different type. So I should actually use gate transform component. Create gate transform component. So just get transform component from an ID. And I will create 3 functions. So get transform 2D component actually. Get sprite component and get rigid body to C component. So my get transform component will return this. It will return the component entities at entity ID, components at 0. And so this should return a transform A. Actually transform 2D, a reference to the component. If I want to modify it, maybe I want to modify it, or maybe I don't. Actually, most of the time I think I should not modify them. So for now, I will return a const reference to this. So here I should return a const reference to a sprite. And here I should return a const reference to a rigid body tree. Okay. And this is not at 0, this will be a static cast. To I32, I think, yeah, of component indices of transform 2D. So that's for the other one. I have to create them. So this will return a sprite, and here it will be sprite, and this will return a rigid body. Actually, it's bodies. Okay, and now I'm saying to myself it should not be const reference, because here, when I want to move this say, okay, get transform to the component of 0.pose.x. When I want to do this, I want to be able to modify it, but I cannot because it is a const reference. So I should have a normal reference in it. Okay. And here then, so when I want to get the transform, here I want to, oh, it's auto A, auto understand, and here I want to get transform of this sprite entity. Get transform to the component of the sprite entity. Okay. This is actually not very optimized because, how to say it? For every time I go into the loop, I update this. What I should actually do to make it more optimized is preparing all my sprite data. So preparing all these DST rect, and then go through this. Yeah, and I could optimize this with moving only the sprites that I've moved or something like this. But yeah, for now I'll keep that this way. It's quite simple. I think the API is quite easy to use. Yeah, I just get my component and I recompute the thing I want to compute. It should work. Yeah, it is. So that's good. Maybe later I will change this. Okay, so I think it's good for one video. It's actually quite long. I hope it will be understandable. Again, I've been back and forth because I'm actually improvising when I'm doing this. I have a rough idea of what I want to do, but then the implementation, I do it while recording the video. So I hope it was interesting for you. See you in the next video. Bye!